Welcome viewers. On behalf of Iravati Research and Communication Center, I am your host, Pratim Ranjan Bose. I have with me Mr. Subhendu Moitra, investment banker and founder director of Quas Advisors. We will discuss problems in infrastructure financing in India. The critical focus is on refinancing of infrastructure. Finance risk is critically linked to regulatory environment. We will therefore explore if India has adequate regulations for dispute resolution in place. But before we start the session, here is a reminder. In December this year, Reserve Bank of India imposed sweeping restrictions on investments by banks and non-banking financial institutions in alternate investment funds or AIFs. RBI wanted to stop evergreening of loans, but it ended up blocking foreign funds from refinancing in assets which are considered sticky or doubtful in the books of RBI. The link of the last discussion is available in the details of this video. Considering that India is in an infrastructure building rush, we will try to know or will get deeper on the issue of refinancing and if RBI should share its regulations, should reform its regulations on sticky assets. Mr. Moitra, without wasting much time, let me get into the host of questions. Let us first start from why refinancing is important for infrastructure. What are the current problems? What is the global scenario? And why should India align with the global system? Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Bosch. It's always a pleasure interacting with you. Now, of course, we'll discuss AIA part also because there is there's no development, but there's some news, in the system. There may be some changes coming. We'll discuss it later. But coming to your question, why refinancing? Now, see, the infrastructure funding is a bit different kind of funding. Few ways. Like, for example, mostly there's no asset as such. It's all cash flow based funding. It's a very long funding, long gestation funding. So these are the certain characteristics of infrastructure. Whether you take road, whether you take port, whether you take airport, these are all like that. And there's a very long funding. You cannot have a very short period. Not like I say, even a steel or cement within 10 years you can get your money back. So it's
I
not
think
that.
essentially you were saying that when you are building a factory or
Yes,
something of that sort, where you will
yes,
enter into the construction is over, now you enter into the operation phase and you have a set timeline for making profits and etc.
same.
Here it is a long gestation. The returns
Yeah.
come much later. It takes a longer time.
Actually, now there's a reason also behind it. If I don't make a long gestation, because these are all public goods, it's very expensive. So you have to make it long gestation. So this is affordable to the public.
Right.
Now that brings us to a question that it has to also fund it with a long kind of sources of the fund. Now the long kind of sources. For example, if I give an example, normally the airports right now are given under public-private partnership for a 40-year concession. Now, those funds are not available. In a loan, equity can come. Equity can be sold also in between is fine. Now, what happens? These kind of debts, you get maximum 15 years, maximum 20 years, not more than that. So internationally also it's like that. I'll give an example. There is a channel, tunnel between UK and France,
Right.
which is a 100 years concession, which was given most probably in 1976. It will go up to 2086. So far that has been funded by 200 lenders in various tranches of the refinancing. That's how it happens because
Just
we
need to
funded
be.
this way.
When you say concession, you mean that they are assuming that the returns will come over a period of 100 years, right?
Yes, exactly. This is how it is because when the say concession, which says that that has been given to the public-private partnership to the party for that period of time. So whatever income comes, that they can generate and they can earn out of that period of time. Beyond that, it goes to maybe another party or whoever. It can go to somebody else also.
Right.
So that's a very normal practice across the world. But unfortunately, in India, we don't differentiate in this in infrastructure and non-infrastructure. You might have heard earlier there was a question of evergreening. 10 years back, we said there's banks evergreen. So whenever a loan is not able to pay, they fund it through a new loan for a longer period of time. which is wrong. Of course, it's not right. But at the same time, it is wrong for a non-infrastructure project where you are supposed to get the return within 10 or 12 years. The payback period is lower like that. In an infrastructure project, it is supposed to be for a longer time, and it refinance is a very normal practice across the world. It is done, but unfortunately, our Reserve Bank of India guidelines do not differentiate among us. Here, the guideline says that whatever you initially give a loan, say for a period of say 15 years, if you at the end of 14 years or 13 years, you want to extend it, though you have a period available for another 15 or 20 years, you are not allowed to do. If you do that, it will be treated as a restructured asset and it will become an NPA. So there is a problem in that. So now look at the, yeah, if I just
So,
end.
hmm.
So yeah, so just look at the situation. Indian banks, I said, can go up to 15, 20 years. Now look at somebody like Citibank or Standard Chartered. They normally lend up to 7 to 10 years. So they cannot come at all. They're not there. So you'll
I
find
think
them
all
lending only.
banks, most bank finance is for 7 to 10 years, even in India.
Even in India, but because of this problem, and that also you'll find it's a public sector banks, because they know ultimately there is no lending possible that. So they do 15. So SBI gives up to 20 years loan to such project, and a lot of other banks, host of the banks also, institutions also like REC, PFC, Indian Infrastructure Finance Company, they go up to 15, 20 years loan. That's fine. But the question is then, so far we have managed. Now, when I say that we are going for a quantum leap, the government is thinking of a very huge infrastructure funding, and we
Not
need that.
thinking, they have already done over the last 10 years.
Planned. Absolutely. Planned.
So the pipeline
So,
is getting dry, whatever you put.
absolutely. Absolutely. So there we need to think about something. So far, if you very clearly see the international funds, international lending, that has only happened after completion of the project. New projects, they are not there because of this kind of problem, where they know that if I give a 7 years loan, I cannot take a 7 years loan for an infrastructure project today, because ab initio I'll know it's unviable. It's not, doesn't work like that. So they are not here. So that's one of the major issues which the Reserve Bank or the regulator has to sort out. See, we need to be strict, but it doesn't mean that we be totally out of sync with the reality. And that is why I think one of the issues which needs to be sorted out very urgently. I understand the various lenders has already telling this to the regulator for a quite a period of time, but something needs to be done very urgently. This is the one point which I believe is one of the reasons why they are, as you say, that certain. You just look at the profile of the lenders for infrastructure project in India. You'll find all PSU banks, maybe one or two traditional private sector banks. So this is one of the major issues. There are certain others also, but this issue is very, very important. If you look at the regulator and why this foreign banks are not there, especially for the greenfield infrastructure project.
So what you essentially mean, you actually, I will also have another question, spin-off question, but what you essentially mean is that we are choking finance. There
Absolutely.
are lenders. Suppose SBI has come, you have forced, the government might have forced or asked them to fund infrastructure projects. So they are giving 15-year or 20-year loan, right? Now,
I will not say they are forced, but I say that as a nation builder, they believe that this is a good lending, so they are
fair
doing
enough,
it.
fair
So,
enough,
but
fair enough.
then outsiders do not have that kind of emotion. I must have to tell them they look only for the commercial way of looking at it.
No, that is
So the
so fair enough. But here is a problem. India is a fund scarce country. We have less money than we need. I mean,
absolutely
which reflects on our
less
interest,
capital,
right?
both equity and debt. We need more capital, and we need money from outside.
Right, right. So whenever, say, SBI is blocking its finances, say for 20 years, theoretically, it is depriving some other borrower or some other project, so the what you are essentially saying is that we are choking the flow of finances. Instead, we can follow the global norms where
Yes,
you can give it for 5 years or 7 years. The project life is for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 40 years. So that another bank can come and take over from you and they can
it's
continue
like a relay
financing.
race. It's like a relay race.
It's
See,
like a
we
relay
know
race.
it's like a one, say, 2,000-meter relay race. Every 400 meters, a new set of lenders come and go ahead. And we are not allowing that in this country, which is across the world it happens. So that is what one of the very major requirement on the infrastructure lending today in this country. If you look at the whatever, I mean, people come back and say, "Oh, there's so many lending happened in infrastructure." Look at those are all in InvIT. Those are all in completed projects. Those are not on the new projects at all. New project hardly any foreign bank except multilaterals. Multilaterals come for a different reason, so they are there. Foreign banks are not there. Private banks are also hardly there. It's all Indian banks, so it's a only set of lenders who are coming are the very limited set of lenders. And we are, if we are thinking of a very large requirement of the fund, we need to allow all types of the sources in a very equal way, or in a very very logical way. And there's no need to have a regulation which is absolutely strict. And because we are so scared of, you can't be so scared. And it's very logical that if you have a 40 years concession, if somebody has given, or 40 years period of the project, life of the project, somebody is given money for 20 years, if he extend by another 10 years, what's the problem? There's no problem as such on that. There's no issue as such on that. There should not be any issue. And then it should be very simply allowed. It should be allowed as such. So this is one of the issues which needs to be sorted out.
So if the world
I'll do that.
doesn't need RBI to be as strict, we know about Basel III norms, this norms, that norms, right? So if the world doesn't want India to be as strict, and India is we are set to emerge as the third largest economy in another 2 years or 3 years. So if that be the case, then why RBI is sticking to such norms? I mean, is it merely a kind of safety first, or is it a paranoia?
No, I would say that RBI sometimes do not differentiate between infra and non-infra project. It's wrong. I'll give you one more example here. Now, RBI also has a rule. I think this is again maybe the unique country in India, though there is nothing wrong. I mean, some ways it's a positive also. They say if a project, when you come for the funding, you have to also give that I will complete the project in a period of time, which is called COD, completion date, project completion date, you have to mention.
Right.
So if you delay beyond a point, even if you are servicing your loan, it will be treated as a non-performing asset.
This is not there
Now,
globally.
This is not there in anywhere. If you should
No,
not delay your loan, but
now in infrastructure project, such delays are very common.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not always because of the person who is setting up.
No.
It can
It's
happen.
because,
It can happen for anything. It can
right.
happen for a natural calamity. If suppose you are putting a hydel project, it can happen for natural calamities, happen legal issues, not getting land, not getting so many issues is possible. So we have to be very logical. I understand if the money has gone and nothing has happened, you should delay it. Now again, here needs some kind of, as a moderation. For example, what they should do, that in infrastructure project which is substantially completed, say 85%, they can say if it's up to 85% completed and there is some delay, then subject to the loan being properly serviced, it should not be treated as an NPA. It has happened especially for several hydroelectric projects, especially in Himalayas, large projects. For some reason, it got delayed for environmental reasons or for natural disasters. So it has unnecessarily become, they call it technical NPA. But again, for a lender, now look for the risk for a lender who want to fund a project in India. These are the risks for them. He will put money in a project and it will become NPA for these reasons. So they become skeptic on that. Even for the funds, a lot of funds also become skeptics or certain rules on that. So you will
Now,
find
I think
also
once
infrastructure
declared an NPA, there is a bar on others to invest in that, right?
Yes, others to invest. Nobody can give a loan. The promoters become tented. They cannot set up any other thing. That also treated as a part of the NPA.
Now, that
So a
takes
lot
us
of
to a
issues.
very, very interesting conjecture. Now, suppose, for example, we have just seen the accident in Badrinath, the Char Dham project,
Yes,
right? Where a tunnel collapsed, or some people got struck in the. Also,
yes,
under construction, Hydel project was washed away partly, right?
in Sikkim.
In Sikkim,
Yes,
in Uttarakhand, something happened.
right.
Then now here comes a question. Now, assuming that the project has to be delayed. Once it is delayed, so there is so it will be declared an NPA, and there will be no refinances available, right? So that
No,
means
same banks have to refer them. No new lender will come in a NPA because you give additional money, you have to provide. Who will give money? Knowing fully well, if I give 100 rupees, Today I have to provide 20 rupees. Nobody will give you loan on that. So that is that it becomes almost no go. Only the existing people who have sunk their money, they will be only there, nobody else. They will also
Right.
try to somehow get out.
Right. Now that means that the existing bankers are at risk, increased
Yes.
risk,
Yes.
because they have
Yes.
to put more money into something which has gone wrong. You are not allowing them the exit route, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
At the same time, assuming that always it so happens that the existing banks will, tighten their screws, and if you need 100 rupees, they will say, I'll give you 60 rupees. Something of that sort happens practically.
They will increase rate of interest because the risk has gone up. So all things, the cost goes up, everything goes
Right.
up.
Now the project finally and another conjecture is that this project may undergo the IBC resolution, that is,
All things,
bankruptcy, and the
all things,
banks have to take the
all
hit.
things are possible. Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
while
it's very, very unfortunate, I would say, that these kind of things,
easy
really.
option was available, you are denying the easy option and taking it to a more difficult case where there can be haircut, there can be more delays, higher economic cost, everything is going up.
Now what happens here? Reserve Bank, they have given something for the infrastructure. Like they have said, for a project which has a legal issue, you can normal issues you can go up to 2 years extension. For a legal issue, another 2 years. But then sometimes that becomes also insufficient because these are large and very long projects. So I think here there's some more thinking has to be happening, because see, we have to see, this is not only regulation, we are very strict. But then if you are restricting outsiders to enter, you look at the thing, Pratim, I just would tell you, in fact, this question we should ask everybody, that why large funds, large project, I mean, even the contractors are not putting up PPP projects in India.
PPP,
You
yes,
know,
very important point, because
all
PPP
these
is a
Indian
failure.
ones,
PPP
failure.
is a failure in India.
Yeah, no, I mean, so it's not coming because see, it's only the Indian promoters are doing it, but outsiders are not putting money because of the risks and all. Because there are certain regulations which are, I think, too strict. And in an infrastructure project, when we are in a growing spree, we should be looking into those angles. We should not do something wrong, but at the same time, we should unnecessarily not make so tight that no water comes out of our tap. Then the tap has no use as such, right? If I put it, such a tight that you can't open it, there is no use. Don't put a tap at all. Like ultimately, I'm hitting myself only. So these are the things I think need to be done by the regulator. That those regulations which are not sync with the international regulations, especially for infrastructure, they had to have a relook into it. And this is being actually, I understand, several lenders are trying to, even others are also trying to convince our regulator for some time. This has to happen, I believe, and it has to happen fast. That's what I can tell.
Right. Two questions. One is how much, I mean, if you have any guess, I mean, in all probability, the Narendra Modi government is returning for the third term, and they have already made it very clear that in these 5 years, they are going to take the country for a quantum jump in every sphere. And the infrastructure now we have started seeing, we are building the new expressways. These are American standard expressways. So we are no more compromising on quality kind of stuff. We want redundancy in the system. We want quality infrastructure. We want quality life. We want to improve the per capita income dramatically, etc., etc. So which means that infrastructure, if it was a focus for last 10 years, it will be of greater focus in the next 5 years, right?
Absolutely.
So given that, you were saying that foreign funds or foreign companies are not coming into India.
For new
Foreign
projects,
banks are,
completed project, yes, in InvIT they are coming, but new under construction projects, they're hardly coming. You just look at the profile of the lenders, you look at the profile of the investors, the funds, they're hardly there, except the Indians ones, they're
no,
not there.
I
So
have
we
a
need to be.
question here. Is it because of this problem that India divides its highways in so many pieces? So many, 45 kilometers, 50 kilometer stretches, because you just want to show that project is completed.
No, actually, I'll put it in the other way. Because they are not coming, so to allow Indian promoters to be able to bid, so we have made it shorter so that we need more players. Otherwise, only you have 3-4 of the Indians who will be able to, like L&Ts and Adanis and Ashokas. Few 4-5 are there. IRBs, 4 contractors who are there who can take the large projects. So when you know you need so much, and when you know outside guys are not coming such a way, so you have, maybe I would put it the other way, we have put it smaller to ensure, except a few ones like Ganga and all, where those people are only coming, so that we are able to go get other guys to be also investing. Otherwise, it will be choked. Actually, only the few guys will be there, will not be able to complete the projects. So this is actually, so of course, I will not say regulation is the only issue. We can come with something else also. I mean, if only we have discussed only the finance. So we are saying that current government has in last 5 years made a lot of corrections. Let's be very, very honest about it, so that things are happening in a big way. But there is some more need to be done if we have to go to faster. For example, let me also come to another
Just
very governance.
I'm just asking a supplementary here, that if they have reduced, made it into smaller pieces, one 500-kilometer highway is made into 20 pieces or 25 pieces, right? And then they are inviting InvIT for those pieces, right?
No, that is for the completed. We're not going to the completed projects as such.
Right.
We
So
are going
50,
to
50 kilometer is completed in a 500-kilometer
Yeah.
space, and you are inviting InvIT into that 50
Yes.
kilometer.
Yeah.
Right. Idea.
So what what InvIT is doing there, instead of taking say 5 projects, they're taking 50 projects as such.
So I'm asking you, whatever you are responding to, just here is that the government might give a counter. Government or RBI, whosoever it is, can give a counter that we have found a solution for this. So why do you need
No.
to increase this?
No, actually, InvITs are not looking for 45. They have a huge fund. It's not that they are looking for a 45 crore stretch, a 45-kilometer stretch. Not at all that way. They have a huge fund. They will rather take a 500 kilometer stretch. No issue on that. But because your completed projects are available in such stretches, so they're buying that. So instead of buying 5 projects, they're buying 50 projects, because your tranches are like that. So it's the other way around. But if you, because you asked why you have made it smaller, so I am coming to, because we did not make it smaller for InvIT. InvIT is a much later thought. When you wanted to monetize ourselves, then we realized, okay, if they are not coming in the new project,
So I didn't say from the perspective of InvITs. I said that because you want to limit the risk of the banks who are investing, so you made it smaller. Ticket size is smaller.
No, but InvIT mostly the international funds who are investing as equity.
Please
Banks will give a thing. So that is. So I think it's not for the InvIT. InvIT has come later. I'll rather put it InvIT why it has come. When the government understood that they are not coming for the under implementation project, there are various issues. They said, okay, let us bring them into the completed projects. So that's how the InvIT came. They are only for the completed projects. You in a InvIT, 90% of the projects they acquire has to be fully operational projects. Only 10%. So that is not for the. So that is not exactly the reason. I would say rather, if the international guys come, which initially came, if you look at the Durgapur Expressway, which is here between Dankuni and Panagarh, there the Malaysian guys were there, but they are the only guy. They were the first stage they came and then they ran away. They are not there after that. Gomura is not. They have not invested brought any such project after that, because they found a lot of problems. There are delays, there are issues. So they made money in the process, but they realized it's a very difficult job. I know there are a lot of local issues. I mean, so you have to look for ways. How do I solve these issues? A lot of issues have been solved. Let me tell you, people pay toll in time, and all these issues are there. All the issues have been solved. But then what are the other issues? Why they are not coming? I think we should introspect. Every one of us, as an Indian, we should introspect that what are the roadblocks, why they are not coming. Because everybody wants to enter India, whether it's a contractor, whether anybody wants to enter India. But infrastructure, why there is a issues. I mean, if I come to the other issue, this is only we have discussed the lending. There are issues of the governance. Now, if you ask me what is the governance, we can discuss in details. In infrastructure, because these are all public goods and government has a huge role. And initially, across the world, it was all with the government authorities. Power was a government authority, state electricity board. Road was NHI or whatever, PWD like that. Or everything. Port was under the government. So everything was under the government. So when you open, what you are supposed to do, everybody is supposed to do, you have to create a proper governance structure. Now, I will give an example. Unfortunately, India, whenever we are opening each and every sector, before creating the governance sector, we have opened and we have faced some issues. I'll give an example. When initially the power was open, you remember, there are a lot of issues. So people came from outside, and then
In a
there was
summer
issues.
time.
Double went back, ran away, everything. After that, nobody entered. Now, what was the issue? Issue was that state electricity board, who were basically having the monopoly, so they only became the rule maker, the regulator, and also a player. So they were also the judge of the rule, where they were the competitor also. For I'll give an example. What was there? State electricity board used to have its own power project. They'll buy power from them. They'll give a project to a private party. They'll buy power from them. So whenever there was a competition, there was a natural thing that you will always try to prefer your own baby,
In
right?
short, whosoever is the final owner of that project, I mean, the
Yes.
contracting authority
Yes.
is also in charge of dispute settlement.
Dispute settlement. So this is what the rule says, that government should make the rules. They should be making the rules. That's the role of the government. There should be independent regulator who should implement the rules. You should see who is doing wrong or what, because these are all contract based. And then there'll be players, where there may be a government company also player. State electricity board can be a player, or a generating company player. Everybody is player. So initially it happened. Then government came with the Electricity Act, Central Electricity Regulatory Commission, State Electricity Regulatory. It happened. It happened subsequently. Similarly, there are sectors today. If you see that, road also, we face a lot of issues. Now this government somehow able to bring NHAI to table and settle a lot of issues. Here the issue was also same. NHAI was having their own roads, and they were also the regulator for the PPP projects of the roads. So whenever there was a dispute, and NHAI has to, there was a dispute that NHAI has to pay some payment to the other party, or the other party has to give some penalty, there was always a biased discussion. So it will go to various courts. So 15, 20 years it will take for things to settle. And so outside people thought it's better not to go there, because this is a long drawn process. Why should I enter there? So that is the another thing. So I believe, like, certain sectors we have regulators. For example, we have a regulator in power infrastructure sector, I'm saying. We have a regulator in airport, ERA is there. We have a regulator in port as a regulator, maritime board. Then we also have a regulator but we don't have a regulator in railway. We don't have a regulator in roads. We don't have a regulator for municipal
Railway
services,
is the
for example.
difficult proposition. It's completely
So, so,
monopolized.
so that's what I'm saying. Now you are discussing, I think the other day, that's the another where the railway, another PPP is coming in a big way.
And this is
Government is
exactly why
putting.
government is failing to attract private finance in railway.
Absolutely. This is where I've come to the point. Now we know why. What is the problem? It's not that why they are not coming, because they know that it's a very,
If,
it'll go
if,
to
if, if
dispute.
a private, I mean, I asked one of the top logistics companies in the world that why don't they run private trains in India? They run private trains, cargo trains I'm
Yes.
talking about.
Yes.
They said that it's impossible because you have to run on railway track. Then railway has another competitor, my company is my competitor,
Yes.
and he will get there will be willy-nilly they will push me.
Preference. So preference, and in dispute you will have a more problem. So this is, you see how many cases are going on. And so you go to railway takes a role. You go to the arbitration, then they lose, then they go to the next level, high court, they lose, they go to the Supreme Court. So those things, it keeps on happening
No
for
one
years. So
wants to
now
waste so much of time and money.
nobody outside guys have interested in doing this kind of litigations and all. They said we are better off to do, so they don't want. Maybe they are
So a
giving technology.
regulatory framework for roads is probably the need of the hour.
I think so, though.
With
I think we
InvITs
have
in
not done
place,
it.
now you are taking private investments and all these things, and you are taking
No,
in
I
refinancing.
must tell you, because thanks to the very very dynamic minister we have in road, he has been able to manage this NHI issue in a big way. He has created a committee who does all the dispute resolutions and all. But then this is again maybe human specific. So
Exactly.
tomorrow, if he is not, we should create a system. My question is that why it has to be somebody is doing, somebody is not doing. It should be a
Yeah.
system there in place. Their regulatory already in place, so that it should go to them and they'll decide. That's what happens in the for a power projects. There's a regulator. Andhra Pradesh government unilaterally reduced tariff. It went to a regulator. They lost it and they paid it. They had to pay it ultimately.
You have
This is how it should
CRC,
happen.
you have appellate tribunal.
Exactly. So basically, I'm saying that right now, immediately three regulators they should think of. One is in the road, one is in the railways, and there's a municipal services. Municipal service another way where the things have not come. It's only the contractors are working in Jal Jeevan or whatever. PPP has not come because of these issues. Again, the municipalities are deciding that they will be the regulator in that case. So I think right now the situation is there. So we should rather have a municipal regulator who should look for that. So these are the issues I think needs a need of the hour. That's the governance structure for the sectors which we are opening. That needs to be in sync with whatever we require, so that the outside investors, outside contractors, outside lenders get attracted to that. This is what we reduce our risk, legal risk and other risk for the projects as such.
So finally, it's like we need some reforms here to ensure that more funds come in, and if we need more funds to get
Yes.
our projects, our systems, our infrastructure world class, which is a prerequisite for cost-effective production and services.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Absolutely.